Well, hey everybody, I'm John Retlin with another Impact Wrestling themed ranking video. This is every Impact Wrestling Tag Team Champion ranked from worst to best. I'm including the NWA TNA era version of the Tag Team Championship because otherwise I'd be leaving out some really good teams and some really shit teams that held the championship. And also, I don't want to forget about the history because, again, one really, really good team that I'm going to get to probably in the second part of this, of this list, they really should be remembered, and I think you can figure out who the fuck it is. So I'm also going to have an X Division Championship ranking video up at some point, one or two-parter depending on how long it takes. And then that's to go along with the Knockouts and World Championship ranking lists that I already did. A couple more ECW ones and a couple more New Japan ones. That'll be happening during the month and maybe even into November. We shall see. But anyway, 52 different teams have held some form of the Impact Tag Team Championship. So let's get on with the worst one. Team Pac-Man, Ron Killings, Adam Pac-Man Jones. One reign, 35 days. Nothing against Ron Killings. Adam Pac-Man Jones, who, shut up a strip club. One shot or 50, I don't care. It was a fucking controversial bullshit thing that ended with a man suffering paralysis, I believe, if I recall correctly. I mean, there's variations of the story out there, but the whole point of this is they had a guy that was suspended from the NFL but couldn't have contact with any of the wrestlers. He had a no contact thing even though he was suspended. So he got paid to not take bumps. Yay, that's a great use of money by Impact. This was Dixie Carter and whoever the fuck else came up with the idea, so I'm not knocking the current administration, but this was just trash. And nothing against Ron Killings. They had to bring Consequences Creed, a.k.a. the future Xavier Woods, in a Bound for Glory 2007 to take Pac-Man Jones' place, because, he couldn't fucking take bumps, and they paid him so much money. Jesus Christ, this was stupid. Ron Killings actually had a pretty good run in Impact for about 5, almost 6 years, actually. I think it was about 5.5, 6 years. And he did pretty damn well. Two-time NWA champion, tag team champion, and I'll get to another one of his reigns a little bit later on. But yeah, this was not a good start for the TNA era of the tag team championships after they withdrew from the NWA earlier in the year, like about 5 months before this. Really not a great move. Really not great at all. It was fucking trash. We then get to number 51, The Band, which was originally Sean Waltman, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall for one reign and 41 days. Well, Eric Young came in to replace Sean Waltman because of some snafu. They booked Waltman for a show he actually couldn't attend. Apparently. That's the rumor. I'm not blaming Waltman here. I think Impact just had a big snafu. The whole point is Eric Young was slotted in there. Why fresh out the whole World Elite thing, which it should have lasted longer than it did, and it actually is a forgotten stable, and they actually weren't that bad. I think he turned face for a bit, and then he turned right back heel, and they put the Tag Team Championships on National Hall in 2010. What did they think was going to fucking happen? It was fucking atrocious. Look, Nash, he did what he could. He actually did, I think, fine in Impact, all things considered. Spirit was willing, flesh was weak. Hall had a lot of personal demons that he seemingly has gotten past since. And nothing against Eric Young and nothing against Waltman. It's just, this wasn't a good idea. It was Hogan trying to recreate the NWO 2.0 or whoever else came up with this idea. I'm guessing Hogan, because I'm guessing Hogan had a lot of influence there, or Dixie just listened to him or figured, hell, let's just try this. Dixie Carter's a goddamn idiot. Now we get to number 50. Kaz and Super Eric, one reign. I think they held it for like barely one day. I think they had the titles taken away from him because it was supposed to be Eric Young, not Super Eric. The team with Kaz, and Kaz, by the way, is Kazarian, for those that don't know. It was just a short reign. It was a cool pop, but they didn't hold it long. I also want to make mention that in this list, I'm going to mention some modern Impact Wrestling tag teams like from the last couple years. I haven't kept up on as much of Modern Impact as I should have. But quite frankly, I just don't have the time, so you'll forgive me if I go over some of the finer details of that. I encourage you guys to leave thoughts in the comment box. But I'm going to praise some teams you might not expect as this list goes on. So we go to number 49. It's Brian Myers and Trevor Lee. During the time where Brian Myers was not in WWE, and when Trevor Lee was there, you had one Impact. That is one reign. It was one day. It was a quick title reign that didn't last long. It just didn't last long. There's going to be a lot of short reigns coming up here on this. Number 48, Eli Drake and Scott Steiner, one reign, 2 days. I mean, come on. And nothing against Eli Drake or Scott Steiner. It's just if you only have it for 2 days, what is there to note? Really, what is there to note, in all honesty? We get number 47, Z&E, which was Andrew Everett and DJZ, one reign, 2 days. I like DJZ. Got to meet him at a couple indie shows, Without a Cause shows earlier this year before he signed with NXT. And as of right now, he is recovering from surgery. He had to have a steel plate put in his face due to an eye injury, I believe. Hopefully he recovers. Speedy recovery to him. Not that he's going to watch this, but speedy recovery to him. If any of you were unaware, please give your thoughts and well wishes to DJ Z, a.k.a. Joachim Wild, I believe is what his name is now. It's a name that means something to him, but it's like I have a bit of difficulty with some of these new names that WWE just throws in their talents. But anyway, Andrew Everett and DJZ actually are really good athletes. It's just they only got to hold them for 2 days, so I don't really know what else I need to say here. Number 46, Kurt Angle, one reign, 15 days. This was during the time where he beat Samoa Joe in a winner-take-all match. He was the Impact champion, and I think they were both tag team champions, and then Joe was also the X Division champion, so it was a winner-take-all match. And Kurt ended up with all the belts, and then would actually defend them all at No Surrender the following month. And in a really good match against Jay Lethal that I wish more people remembered. I really, really liked that match. I thought that match was pretty goddamn good. But yeah, he was actually a tag team champion. One guy was tag team champion for 15 days. So nothing against Kurt Angle, but I'm ranking him this low for that reason. And we go again. Samoa Joe, one reign, 28 days. He held the tag team championship. They really didn't care about the tag team titles for a while, or at least at various periods, which is a shame given how Impact Wrestling for years and years from the beginning, and with some mountains and valleys and stuff like that, and even now, are establishing a well-rounded tag team division. Even with talents that are leaving and this kind of stuff, and going in and out of the company, they still had a pretty solid tag team division, more often than not. But giving it to one guy, having one guy just hold it, and then naming a guy as his partner, or this kind of, it just didn't work. It just wasn't a good idea. We then get to number 44, Matt Morgan, one reign, 29 days. Yes, Matt Morgan, solo champion. Solo champion for 29 days. Yeah, good idea. That's a really, really good idea. I don't get why any company, Impact or otherwise, would do this. I just don't get it. Number 43, Red Shirt Security, was Kevin Northcutt and Joe Legend. One reign, 7 days. It was for the NWA. It was with the NWA version of the tag titles. I mean, they were champions for a week. They were champions for a goddamn week. And Red Shirt Security, I'm willing to bet that Russo booked that. Just seems silly. Number 42, D'Lo and Apollo. One reign, 7 days with the NWA tag titles. Apollo, often forgotten about as being a pretty good athlete. And D'Lo's underappreciated as fuck. He really is. From his WWE time, his first run, and then his time in Impact, like, especially from 03 to like, 06? I think it was something like that. 03, 05, 06. He really had some good stuff. He had a good feud with AJ Styles. He had some good stuff that he was doing. Like, D'Lo Brown, very underappreciated, in my personal opinion. I think he deserves respect for that. Not being underappreciated, but being a really good athlete that should be remembered better. I don't think he's wrestling as much anymore. He might have actually retired. I believe he's working as an agent for Impact backstage or for some company. But yeah, I don't think he's wrestling much anymore. But in his day, for a number of years, really solid worker. So we get number 41, Angle and Sting, one reign, 13 days. Yeah, they were champions for a little bit. This is after Angle had won at Hard Justice. He made Sting his tag team partner, and then they were an unlikely alliance, and then they lost the tag titles to Team Pac-Man of all people. And then they feuded at Bound for Glory, and then Sting beat him. Not with Pac-Man. That would have actually been better if Pac-Man could have taken a bump, but he couldn't, and they still paid him a lot of money. Yeah, I'm still upset about that. But it was what it was. 13 days, it didn't last very long. And then we get Chris Harris and Elix Skipper. One reign, 13 days with the NWA tag titles. This is when they were taking the members of Triple X and AMW, easy for me to say, America's Most Wanted, and just taking one member of each team and putting them together and then having them feud because they had had such a great feud for a while. So yeah, Harris and Skipper, unlikely tag team partners. That never necessarily works. It was what it was. They'd like had, brief. They had a brief run. And then we get to number 39, Christopher Daniels and James Storm. One reign, 21 days with the NWA tag titles. Again, the opposite sides of tag teams teaming together. It was just in this feud that was going to eventually lead to AMW defeating Triple X at, I believe, Turning Point 2004, where Elix Skipper walked the cage. It was Turning Point. I was thinking Victory Road, but no, that wasn't right. Where Elix Skipper walked the top of the cage, one of the best goddamn bumps and moments in the last 20 years in wrestling. I would, and I'm not talking Impact. I'm talking, I would put that top 20. That was a holy shit moment. That was really holy shit. Thank God Skipper didn't die, and of course you had Don West and Mike Tenay, just going absolutely crazy. It was absolutely crazy. I think there were 2 fans watching the show. It was pretty good. But then we get to number 37, or 38 rather. We get AJ Styles and Kurt Angle, 1 reign, 18 days. Didn't last long. They were tag team champions. They were feuding. It didn't last very long. A lot of these reigns are really, really short, and that's why a lot of these entrants are short, because it didn't really benefit the championship, at least in my personal opinion. So then we get AJ Styles and Abyss, 1 reign, 28 days, NWA tag titles. They were vacated because they were feuding at the time, and they didn't defend the titles. So it was just taken away, because that's how you build a tag team division. Swerve, bro. Gee, I wonder who booked it. So we get to number 36, Jerry Lynn and Amazing Red, 1 reign, 21 days with the NWA tag titles. Jerry Lynn and Amazing Red, too forgotten now by some fans, which is a shame. I mean, I know that they get praised in some circles, but it's a shame. Jerry Lynn, super talented. Amazing Red, just got to see him at the Super J Cup at Tacoma last month. We're in Tacoma last month. In a great match against Will Ospreay. If you had not had a chance to see that match, if you're subscribed to New Japan World, what are you doing? Finish watching this video or pause it and go watch that match, and you will see what I mean. Also, Amazing Red is going to be at the next Defy Northwest Wrestling show that myself and the Derbinator are going to later this month. I just remembered it was October. So, cool. Jerry Lynn, Amazing Red, they didn't hold it long, but 2 very talented guys. That at least they got to hold it. And then we get number 35, Crimson and Matt Morgan, 1 reign, 90 days. Nothing against Crimson. I know he's still wrestling. Matt Morgan, they didn't know what to do with him in Impact. They knew what to do with him more than they did in WWE. Let me just make that much clear. But they never fully got behind him even long enough, which is a shame. Because Matt Morgan, very talented and kind of pretty good promo. I think he was better as a heel, even as talented as he was. And he was a talented 7-foot monster. I don't think he's wrestling as much, or if he is, he's making sporadic appearances. But him and Crimson, it was fine, and I think they feud afterwards. Yeah. We then get to number 34, Consequences Creed and Jay Lethal, 1 reign, 26 days. This was the Feast or Fired era. Well, they're still doing that, but yeah, they cashed in on, I believe, beer money and stuff like that. And yeah, this was weird. It wasn't great. It wasn't great at all, and they dropped the titles soon afterwards. So they got to hold them. That's great that Creed and Lethal got to hold them. But just, they were called Lethal Consequences, by the way, in case you don't remember. But it was fine. We then get to number 33. It's Styles and Jerry Lynn, 1 reign, 42 days with the NWA tag titles. Not bad. Not bad. 2 talented guys. Really, really good. Solid workers and everything. And they were feuding. They had feuded in the past over the X Division title, and they were tag team champions and stuff like that. And they always did some really, really good shit. They really actually were very, very good talents. And I just think it's a shame that some of these reigns get forgotten about, and some of the titles were just placed on them just to do this stuff, but it is what it is. We then get to number 32, Ohio versus Everything, 1 reign, 81 days. Look, the Chris brothers, at least I believe that's how you pronounce their names, got nothing against them. Plenty against Sami Callihan. I just don't care for him. I just don't think he's a very good wrestler. But Ohio versus Everything is a pretty talented, or pretty, popular trio. And they may have more members. I'm not really sure what they've added to, at least outside of Impact. But the Chris brothers got nothing against them. They are very, very talented guys. But again, playing against Sami Callihan. But still, hey, they were over, and they are still over. So it made the press. Got Impact some buzz. Number 31, Hernandez and Matt Morgan, 1 reign, 78 days. Yeah, these are 2 big men that they slammed together, and then they feuded eventually. And the feud didn't really work. The teaming didn't really work. And nothing against Hernandez, who was actually in a really good tag team I'm going to get to later, probably in the second part. But, yeah, not exactly a great team. They had better chemistry than Crimson and Matt Morgan, but that's not saying much. We then get to number 30, the North, Ethan Page and Josh Alexander. They are the current champions, I believe. At least they were when I looked up this list. 82 days and one reign just so far. Ethan Page, very talented. Josh Alexander, very talented. Page has quite a bit of buzz behind him. They're a pretty good team. What few matches I've been able to see, of theirs in Impact, like, some people have sent me links in DM. I've been very impressed with them, and I got to rank them here, even if their reign isn't as long as some others below them or even above. I had to rank them right about almost the middle, just because as current champions, maybe if I was doing this a couple months down the road, they would be higher, but still, giving praise to a talented team here. Number 29, Disciples of the New Church. One reign, 56 days. It was with the NWA tag titles, and you had Father James Mitchell as their leader, and he would later go on to manage Abyss and stuff like that, and actually had some pretty good stuff. New Church was a bit weird. It was a bit goofy. It worked, don't get me wrong. The performers were talented enough as it is, and they feuded with AMW, but they didn't hold it very long, so really, they were good heels, but they didn't hold it very long, so it was what it was. Number 28, Austin Aries and Bobby Roode. One reign, 76 days. I got a Bobby Roode t-shirt back here in case you can't tell due to the lighting. They were good. They were good rivals. They were a good team as well. The Dirty Heels, which kind of sounds a little bit wrong, but they were a good team. They really were talented, and still are. Don't get me wrong. Roode's in WWE. Austin Aries is wherever the fuck he is. I think he's in MLW, but he's they actually worked pretty well. They just didn't last very long. And folks, I'm gonna take a second. I'll be right back. All right, folks, sorry, just a quick break right there, and we are back with the rest of this list, or at least, the last few parts of this. We get to number 27. It's Kid Cash and Dallas. 2 reigns, 57 days, with the NWA TNA tag titles. And they were a pretty good team. Actually, in Dallas now, Lance Archer in New Japan. Kid Cash, I don't think Kid Cash is wrestling as much, or if he is, I haven't really heard that much. They were a good team. They were good, big man, little man team. And Archer's still talented then, talented now. And Cash had a pretty good run. He didn't last really that long, which is a shame. I mean, I think because he had kind of flamed out, I think, by 2010, 2012. But, Archer's still going pretty strong. And they were actually a pretty good team that complemented each other very well. They just didn't get to hold the titles very long. So, number 26, Triple X, easy for me to say, Elix Skipper, Christopher Daniels, and Low Ki. 3 reigns, 98 days with the NWA tag titles. They didn't get to hold them that long, but they were a hell of a trio. And I'm actually going to be doing a Best Wrestling Trios countdown. Not every trio ranked from worst to best. I don't have that much knowledge as I have. I do not have the ability to do that extensive of a list. But I may do 10 wrestling or 20 Best Wrestling Trios, 20 more Best Wrestling Trios, maybe 20 best, 20 worst, and that kind of stuff, and leave it open in the comments. But Triple X was a really good trio. I really enjoyed their work. They did a lot of good stuff. Unfortunately, they had a great feud with AMW. They just didn't get to hold the titles very long. It's kind of weird because as popular as they were and popular as they are, it was odd that they didn't get to hold the titles very long. And then they reformed in 2007, and it didn't really go anywhere, which is a shame. Number 25, 3 Live Crew. 2 reigns, 91 days with the NWA tag titles, and that is Ron Killings, Conan, and BG James, the Road Dogg, a.k.a. It was BG James doing the Road Dogg shtick. Ron Killings, they had teamed up with K-Quick and the Road Dogg for a brief time, and then Conan doing the same thing that he had done in WCW. So it was what it was. I never really cared for the 3 Live Crew, but hey, they had fun, they got over, and they seemed to be having fun with what they were doing. So, not great, but not bad. And then we get to, I've gotten to this far. I think I'm just going to finish it all up in this video. So here you go. We get to Simon Diamond and Johnny Swinger. 1 reign, 91 days with the NWA tag titles. Simon Diamond, forgotten as a pretty good worker. I know he's been a road agent for a while. Johnny Swinger, also not that bad. They complemented each other. And it was nice to see a heel team with the championships for 3 months. It's a nice little way to establish it so when a babyface team beats them, then that's all great. We get to, and it actually establishes the babyface team if you have them win and then go on with a decent run. Number 23, Mexican America, Anarquia, I think is how it's said, and Hernandez. 1 reign, 97 days. Hernandez is in a lot of teams that only get like a certain number of days as champions until they get to the big one that Hernandez was in. Mexican America was a team that didn't really fire for me, but hey, they were over enough and had Sarita and Rosita. And if you know who Rosita is, then, well, you know. Zelina. It's Zelina Vega, by the way. They weren't a bad team, but they weren't a great team, but I got to put them up here because of 3 months. So then we get to number 27, the Main Event Mafia, or 22 rather. I'm skipping all the way back down and starting this list over again. 22, Main Event Mafia, Booker T and Scott Steiner, 1 reign and 90 plus days. Not bad. I mean, this is when Booker didn't give a shit. It was a paid vacation for him in Impact. And Scott Steiner at least seemed like he cared. I mean, there was a pretty good Full Metal Mayhem match at Bound for Glory 2009. There was a way to write off Booker from TV because he wasn't going to be there anymore. His deal was up. But Scott Steiner helped make that team entertaining, and Booker tried, but it was obvious he just didn't care. It was pretty obvious he didn't. And then we get to Team Canada at number 21. That's Bobby Roode, or Robert Roode, and Eric Young. 2 reigns, 68 days. Oh, so close to a nice title, a nice number for days for the with the NWA tag titles. And Scott D'Amore did get annoying as a heel manager, but it was a good way when they did build that pretty well. Finally, when Team Canada was disbanded and Scott D'Amore was taken off TV, the crowd cheered. They really did roar good. Now, sometimes his antics did get a little over the top, to the point it did knock down a couple of the tag matches he was involved in, but he was a great way to like build up some heel heat. It actually worked. This is one of the rare things where an over-the-top heel manager in the modern era actually worked pretty well. And Roode and Young are a pretty good team. Number 20, AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels, 2 reigns, 85 days with the NWA tag titles. They beat AMW. Yeah, what the fuck was it? Was it Slammiversary? It was either the May pay-per-view, it was either Hard Justice 2005 or Slammiversary. I think it was Slammiversary. But they beat him, and then they lost him to LAX soon after, and I think in August, and then they beat him in September, and they lost it back to him in October. So Styles and Daniels, 2 rivals, big rivals in 2005, they formed a really good team. I mean, they're actually friends, but I'm just saying, for on TV, good rivals, make for better partners, and they worked really well together. It didn't last long, but it was good. And then we get to number 19, Magnus and Samoa Joe, 1 reign, 91 days. Bit of an odd move. Samoa Joe only got 1 reign with the TNA tag or the TNA World Title, and same with Magnus. The real shame about that. And I know it's Impact now, but it was TNA at the time. It's a shame that they both didn't get more than 1 reign, especially Samoa Joe, given how long he was there. Magnus wasn't there a ton of years. Now he's the current NWA champion, at least as of this recording. But they were a good team. I actually enjoyed how they worked together. It's just it was a bit of an odd pairing, and it meshed well, but I don't think it meshed as well as they thought it would. But still, wasn't bad. Then we get to number 18. We get to the Revolution, Abyss, and James Storm, 1 reign, 133 days. Now we're getting into some bigger reigns. The Revolution was a bit of an odd group, with James Storm being a cowboy cult leader. That's hard to say, and it wasn't. It was interesting. It was interesting to see James Storm as a heel again, and I thought it worked pretty well. The group didn't, I think, take off the way they wanted because, TV, they were going through a TV flux at the time. But hey, James Storm really sunk his teeth into it, and I think did really well with it. And hey, 133 days, over 4 months as champions. It's pretty good. We then get to the British Invasion, which was Doug Williams and Magnus, which I believe was Brutus Magnus at first, because they had him be a gladiator thing. That didn't work at all, but Rob Terry was also thrown in there. Rob Terry, who I have nothing against, but was just a body guy that they brought in, and it didn't work. It didn't. I'm sorry. But 91 days of 1 reign. They had some pretty good matches. Doug Williams, I really enjoyed Doug Williams. I do enjoy Magnus's work as well. It's a shame I think this group didn't last longer, but it was good. And they actually were really, really good heels and easy to hate, and they had a good shtick about them. No, not that. Number 16, Bromans, 2 reigns, 182 days. So Robbie E. and Jesse Goddard. I always screw up his name, so I apologize if I screwed up his last name. hey, they had DJZ as their DJ, the whole pa-pa-pa-pa, that was pretty good. They were great heels. They actually got to the point where they were getting cheered. And while not perfect, it at least it was a goofy team that actually worked. And they're actually pretty good workers. Jesse, I think, developed into a pretty good worker. Robbie E. has always been underappreciated as a pretty good worker. And you had DJ Z there, who's probably the most talented of the three as far as in the ring. So it was a nice way to, make a new team, and it actually worked pretty well. I don't think they held onto the titles, too long. I think it was a perfect, set of 2 title reigns. Number 15, Chavo and Hernandez, 2 reigns, 155 days combined. Bit of an odd team, but it worked. It did, mainly because you had Chavo Jr. and you had Hernandez. And Hernandez, by this point, they had tried to do a main event push with him, and then they pulled the rug out from under him. Ultimately, didn't work, and that's nothing against Hernandez, but putting him in a team with Chavo Guerrero Jr., it worked to a point. Now, yeah, okay, you could argue giving Chavo Guerrero Jr. a championship at this point, but at least it made sense. And if you're trying to rebuild a tag team division, putting it on a veteran and a guy you want to maybe build back up into a main event guy isn't the worst thing in the world. And then we get to number 14, the Lucha Bros, 1 reign, 106 days. Rey Fenix and Pentagon Jr., love them. Got to meet Pentagon at the Defy Northwest Wrestling show earlier this year. Great guy. Phoenix did a kick spot with Aubrey Edwards, referee Aubrey Edwards. All the fans were ready to rush the goddamn ring. I mean, it was a planned spot, but still, we were ready to rush the ring. Like, don't you touch Aubrey. She must be protected at all costs. But I like the Lucha Bros, and it was great to see them get on a bigger stage here. Because Impact was creating some good buzz, and Lucha Underground was really falling off the map. And I don't even know if they're going to do a 5th season of that. Number 13, Team 3D. 2 reigns with the TNA tag titles for 122 days, and 1 reign with the NWA tag titles for 28 days. And they were the last champions before those titles got retired. As Team 3D, they did a lot in Impact and a lot of really good stuff. Not all their feuds are great, but I like their feud with LAX. I like their feud with Beer Money. Everything except for the Lockdown 2007 cage match. We don't talk about that, but they were a pretty goddamn good team and are one of the legendary tag teams. Won a lot of titles in a lot of companies and did a lot of good shit. Not everything was great, but hey, they are a legendary tag team for better or worse. Some people don't like Bully Ray. I wouldn't necessarily like his booking in Ring of Honor because it's shit. But as a team, they were really good. We get to number 12, Gunner and James Storm. 1 reign, 140 days. They were tag team champions and they feuded. They were a really good team. Gunner is now Jackson Riker, the most 2000s movie villain name ever. But Gunner and James Storm, they wanted to push Gunner pretty hard. It ultimately after this reign, they didn't really know what to do with the guys. They had them feud, and that was okay. But they were a pretty good team. James Storm is probably one of the best tag team wrestlers that ever worked in Impact. And we get to number 11, The Decay. 1 reign, 197 days. That was Abyss, Crazy Steve, and then you had Rosemary also there. The Decay was pretty good. Pretty goddamn good, stable. Weird, creepy, but actually worked. And Abyss and Crazy Steve actually had some good chemistry. And Rosemary was also there to take some scary bumps and do some stuff and everything. One of the better things that Impact has done in their rebranding in the past number of years. In the past few years. Yeah, they feuded with the Hardys. That thing was all weird and everything and stuff like that. But hey, it still worked. It got some buzz and they tried something different. Can't fault them for that. Number 10, Motor City Machine Guns. 1 reign, 182 days with the TNA tag titles. Impact tag titles. It's Chris Sabin, Alex Shelley. What do you want me to say? They had great matches with Beer Money and other teams. They were a great. I don't know why they're ranked so low, except some of my other favorite teams and teams that held the tag titles longer, over a couple reigns or whatever, are on or above them. But Motor City Machine Guns had to be top 10, even if they were just at number 10, because they were a dynamite team. Great wherever they went, but Impact was a place that they made their home and made their biggest impact as a team. They've had times in Ring of Honor and stuff like that, but I'll always remember the great match that they had in Impact. Look them up if you haven't. You should be familiar with them, but still. AJ Styles and Tyson Tomko, 1 reign, 184 days with the TNA tag titles. They're at number 9. They beat Team Pac-Man, and their reign helped reestablish and wash off the stink of Adam Pac-Man Jones holding on to a tag title and getting paid more than probably some of the talent on the roster. Yes, I'm still upset about that, but anyway, they were a great team. Held on to it for a while, just about 6 months. Great stuff. I really like what they did. And then we get to number 8, Bad Influence. Right there. Kazarian and Christopher Daniels. Actually got to meet them and Scorpio Sky, SCU, at Defied Northwest Wrestling Show in March. And got to meet Christopher Daniels again in July at a 2-day event. And love Christopher Daniels. Big fan of Kaz. Big fan of Scorpio. Kazarian and Daniels really did the best they could with the whole Claire Lynch thing. You know, that whole thing. They tried to make that entertaining and have some fun with it. But their 2 reigns in 136 days combined as champions, they were a great team. Kazarian deserves so much more than he got in Impact, in my opinion. A world championship reign, especially. Same with Christopher Daniels. But my God, they were a great team and so entertaining. One of my favorite shirts, by the way, to wear. I gotta start wearing on more reviews. But anyway, number 7, the Hardys, 2 reigns, 205 days. It was the Hardys reinventing themselves. It's the Hardys. It's the Hardys. What do you want me to say? They were champions, great champions. Yeah, they ended up feuding, the whole broken stuff and whatever, but it was weird, unusual. Got them over, and they reinvented themselves, especially Matt Hardy. That was pretty interesting. And they were TNA Tag Champions a couple times, or Impact Tag Team Champions a couple times. Number 6, the LAX version that was Homicide and Hernandez. 2 reigns, 226 days with the NWA titles. And then 1 reign, 91 days with the TNA tag titles. That right there is where you have to put them. You have to put them up here. And that the reason is they were so goddamn good. Really goddamn good. Homicide Hernandez were a great fucking team. An incredible tag team. Where they were heels and they were eventually turned babyface. Sure, they only were, together for like 3 years. At least on Impact Wrestling TV. Like, well, at least, mainstays. And then Homicide would make appearances in and out of the company after that. But they were a great team and one of the most over ones that Impact Wrestling had. One of the most over tag teams at that time in a major wrestling company. And I'm talking Japan, New Japan, WWE, and that kind of stuff, and WWE and Impact. And even Ring of Honor. The original LAX were really good. I'm nothing against the new LAX. I'm going to get to them here in just a bit. Number 5, the Naturals. 3 reigns, 228 days combined with the NWA titles. And I'm going to tell you, Chase Stevens, Andy Douglas, they deserve to be remembered as an incredible tag team. I mean, no wrestlers are going to be watching this show, but if you remember the Naturals, they were fucking incredible. They were great as heels, great as baby faces. The matches they had with AMW were really goddamn good, including when they finally lost the tag titles. It was a shame. It was a real shame. They had a really lengthy one that then got interrupted with a vacation. Then they won it back for like 3 days and then dropped it to AMW. It was really stupid. But then the Naturals were just forgotten about, which I hated because they were a great team. They were only together like a couple years, at least on Impact TV or Impact pay-per-view, weekly pay-per-view and then TV, but still a great team and one that needs to be remembered. We then get to the Wolves at number 4. 5 reigns, 413 total days. And, so it's Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards. The American Wolves, whatever. They were a great team. They really were. Eddie Edwards, to me, is the more standout single star than Davey Richards, in my opinion, even though Richards is an incredible worker as well. But they were a great team and really, really enjoy. I think they ended up feuding eventually. I mean, like in later Impact, but as a team, they were great. And they were in Ring of Honor. They were great. They were great here in Impact. You really can't find a bad American Wolves match or Wolves match, at least at this stage. They always delivered on TV, pay-per-view, didn't matter. Number 3, Beer Money. James Storm and Robert Roode, or Bobby Roode. 5 reigns, 514 days, like total together. One of the best tag teams of the modern era. Easily. In the last 20 years, at least. One of my favorite tag teams of all time, actually, which I will have a top 50 favorite tag teams of all time list, and Beer Money is going to be on it, just so you know. I don't know what number 1 is going to be, or do I? You'll have to find out when I do that list. But yeah, Beer Money, Storm, and Roode, just great. Fucking great. It just, I can't say enough good shit about them. Whether they feuded with Team 3D, whether they feuded with, LAX, no matter who they feuded with. And then they started feuding with each other. feud with the Motor City Machine Guns first. It's just all the shit they did. Great tag team. Can't say enough good shit about them. Then we get to number 232. Good God, I'm really going backwards on this thing. On number 2, AMW, 6 reigns, 517 combined days with the NWA tag titles. Chris Harris, James Storm, one of the best tag teams ever. Them and Beer Money are like neck and neck. They complemented each other so well. Harris and Storm. Storm was clearly the more breakout singles guy, even though they thought Harris could be that. It didn't ultimately work. And, after they broke up in 2007, great match they had, Texas Death Match at Hard Justice 2007. And then Harris had a bit of a push, and then it didn't happen, and then he was out of the company by 2008, and then Braden Walker happened. Oh boy, Braden Walker. And then he came back in 2011, and he was out of shape, it didn't work, and all that stuff. But focusing on the positive, Chris Harris and James Storm were a goddamn incredible tag team. I nearly put them in number 1. Nearly. Because they were just that goddamn good. All their feuds with Triple X, the Naturals, Disciples of the New Church, the great matches that they had. Face or heel, great team. Number 1, though, LAX, Ortiz and Santana, 4 reigns, 662 days, and now they're signed with AEW. But they had a hell of a run in Impact. They were a great team. They did a ton of good shit. They were a really good team for Impact, and Impact was good to them. And now they're going on to, a great tag division in AEW. But just their time in Impact, that's a number. Those are numbers that you just can't disagree with. I mean, you could, but who's going to argue with numbers? They were just so goddamn good. For even with some of the goofy segments that they were involved in, match quality, they always deliver. They really do. And that's why they're number 1. So, no 2-part thing, because I had so many, reigns that were kind of bullshit that I just ran through those. So, do you agree? Do you disagree with what I said? Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritland, and I'll see you soon.